Good morning, everyone. I want to welcome you all to the October 22nd, 2013 Board of Supervisors meeting. We will begin with a flag salute led by myself. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Nicely done. Will the clerk please read the statement of meeting procedures?
Welcome to the Placer County Board of Supervisors meeting of Tuesday, October 22nd, 2013. Agendas are available on the table in the back of this meeting room. If you are here to speak on an issue not appearing on the agenda, you may do so during the public comment period. There's a 3-minute time limit per speaker. The board is not permitted to take action on items addressed under public comment. When you speak, clearly state your name and address for the record. All items on the agenda will be open for the public to address before final action is taken. There's a 3-minute time limit per speaker, which will be monitored by a timer on the podium. If there is a person speaking on behalf of a group with no other testimony from another member of the group, please identify yourself as such, and your time may be extended at the pleasure of the board. Keep in mind that the chairman has the discretion of limiting the total discussion time on any item. If you are hearing impaired, we have listening devices available. It is requested that cell phones be either turned off or put in the silent mode. Thank you for your participation and cooperation.
Thank you. Now is the time for public comment. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to address the board on any item that is not on the agenda? If so, please come forward, state your name.
Good morning, Ellie Waller, Tahoe Vista resident. I'm here today to thank Supervisor Montgomery for getting a meeting put together on Tuesday, October 29th from 6 to 7 p.m. at the Customs House. Placer County is set to unveil a new look for the county website with easier access to information and services available to the public. I'm hoping many of you in the crowd here today will attend this. I, again, want to thank Supervisor Montgomery. For us that use the website, it'll be nice to have a heads up on how to use the new icons and the way the website will be run. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ellie. Anyone else wish to address the board on any item that's not? Here we go. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Carol Hester. I'm a 30-year resident of Tahoe City, plus a small business owner with 2 toy stores, one in 16 years in Tahoe City and recently at Squaw Valley for over the past year. First of all, I'd like to congratulate the county for their participation in Tahoe City events lately. The Grape Stomp, we had a team. Grill Fest, Jennifer Montgomery was a judge. And then the Scarecrow at your county offices is wonderful. It's nice to see the participation. We really enjoy it. 2 items to address. First is the old Tahoe City Fire Station. I understand the county is evaluating the options for that building. I congratulate you. I hope you move forward on that process, and I hope you engage the local community. There's a lot of opinions, a lot of visioning has been taking place, so I look forward to that process moving forward. Secondly is the proposed lodging project at the Henriksen building. First, I want to say that I am thrilled, and I'm sure many others in this community are, of the prospect of that building being torn down in our lifetime. It would be great. Second, I am in full support of an upscale boutique lodging property on that parcel. I was a past member of the Tahoe City Downtown Association, went to many of the Main Street conferences and saw firsthand what a unique or a quality lodging property can do to revitalize a town, such as in Sonoma. When they added one quality lodging project, it spurred investment, improvement, and growth. It was fabulous. I think that the Tahoe City lodging property is exactly what our town needs. Being on that Tahoe City Downtown Association board, we've taken a lot of small steps to improve our economy, get the community working together, but this is the big project that we really need. As we all know, there's a lot of cost of development at the lake that are much higher than our competitors in Truckee and North Star, Squaw Valley, other vacation destinations. We have those wonderful TRPA TAUs, and that Henriksen building is going to have a lot of demolition costs. I believe it is in the county and TRPA's best interest to find creative solutions to level the financial playing field so that this project and any other future projects might have a viable option from willing developers. Any investment the county makes in this project will see a great ROI in our TOTs, and the businesses, everyone, retailers, restaurants, recreational providers, employees, we will all benefit from this project. It'll hopefully help to stabilize our economy. It seems the opportunity and timing might finally be right for something big in our town. We have willing sellers. We have a willing buyer that has experience in quality lodging properties in other vacation destination areas. They want to partner with local businesses, which is very important to us. We don't want to see a large developer come in and just plop something down and be an absentee owner. They want to partner with our community. And this is huge for us. It seems that all the stakeholders that we've heard from, the county, TRPA, NLTRA, the Business Association, many community members are really in support of this project. So I hope this opportunity becomes a reality and the blight in Tahoe City is removed and replaced with a quality lodging property. Ooh, that was right on.
Right. Anyone else wish to address the board on any item not on the agenda? Alrighty, seeing none, we'll move to our consent agenda. We have a addition to the consent agenda from the sheriff about AB 109, realigned adult offender population. Anything on the consent agenda that board members wish to withdraw? Anyone in the audience have an item on the consent agenda that wants to be discussed? Seeing none, we'll...
Move approval of consent?
Second. It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda with the addendum. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Yes.
Rand?
Yes.
Wygant? Euler? Holmes?
Aye. Okay, we'll move to our first department item. Item 2, Board of Supervisors minutes for September 24th, 2013.
Move approval?
Moved and seconded to approve the minutes of September 24th, 2013. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
One abstention.
One abstention, thank you. All righty, we'll move to item 3, Community Development Resource Agency, amendments to Chapter 16 of the Placer County Code. Mr. Grant, nice to see you.
Thank you and good morning. Chuck Grant, Community Development Resource Agency. The item before you is a proposed amendment to county code that would eliminate the gift deed ordinance section. The gift deed ordinance section was included in county code shortly after the adoption of the Subdivision Map Act, just before I came to work for the county. It was meant as more or less a feel-good ordinance so that the public understands that they still have the ability to convey property to relatives outside of the constraints of the Subdivision Map Act, the state law governing the division of real property in California. It's remained in county code, and it's underutilized because people rely on that section as being confining. The state law doesn't prohibit gift deeds. So by having a section in our county code specifically addressing gift deeds, it leads the public to a perception that it can be a standalone section where it's not. The concept is not for sale, lease, or finance. You can give it to your offspring. When they sell it or get a loan against it, it requires a certificate of compliance by Placer County. All that is written in the gift deed ordinance. It's also found in other sections of county code and in state law. So eliminating the gift deed section will not deprive the public of any of the rights that they currently enjoy. It'll simply eliminate a section that is not useful because other portions of county code adequately cover the gift deeds and the certificates of compliance. If you agree that that could be eliminated, then one reference to gift deeds needs to be removed from the ordinance. And since we're doing a cleanup, the voluntary merger ordinance was adopted by the board about 10 years ago, and it was an effort to streamline the process of merging parcels. And up in Tahoe specifically, where you have a lot of small subdivision lots, construction across the lots requires that you eliminate those property lines. That was the motivation to create the voluntary merger process, and it allows an individual to come in and not go through a hearing and get a very streamlined opportunity to combine their properties. When we wrote this, we confined it to only lots within a subdivision. It's been working well for many years, and I see no reason why we could not expand that to any properties in Placer County that are contiguous can be merged through the voluntary merger process. The current process requires a minor boundary line adjustment, which is time-consuming and expensive. It produces a better product, a better legal description, but that opportunity will still be available to the public if you choose to adopt the changes to the voluntary merger ordinance. What it will do is it'll give the public an opportunity to get a very quick merging of their properties with a very brief legal description, or if they want to have a more elaborate legal description, they can go through the current minor boundary line adjustment process. So I'm available to answer any questions.
Any questions from board members? Anyone in the audience wish to address this item? Wally Auerbach, please come forward.
Thank you, Chairman Holmes. Members of the board, my name is Wally Auerbach. I'm a local civil engineer in Tahoe City. I just wanted to say that I support the changes being proposed today. A little close. More importantly, I'm absolutely opposed to the notion that your county surveyor, Chuck Grant, is retiring after 35 years of solid public service. He's served Placer County a long, long time. He's been a great friend to the engineering community for all these years, and I understand this might be his last Tahoe Supervisors meeting, so I just wanted to come here and say thank you, Chuck, and support him and his efforts. So, thank you.
Yeah.
Final comment. No, it's been fun. I've really enjoyed my time with Placer County. Obviously, if I hadn't, I would have left sooner. There's a lot of things I will miss, but I think as we all go through life, we realize that while this is no less important to me, other things are becoming more important. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Chuck. We appreciate your service to Placer County, and I appreciate when I do the pop-in, you can always give me a little information that I need to know about whatever you're working on. And although you won't be working for the county, I know where to find you. All right, did we have a motion to approve this yet?
Move approval.
Second. It's been moved and seconded to approve item 3A, item 1, A, B, and C. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none. We have reached 9:15, so we will go to our timed item. The Department of Public Works, North Lake Tahoe Resort Triangle Vision, Transit Vision. Mr. Will Garner. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. Will Garner, Public Works Department.
Sandy
Yeah.
Evans Hall, North Lake Tahoe Resort Association.
Yep. So this item this morning is to provide you an overview of the North Lake Tahoe Resort Triangle Transit Vision. And from now on, I'm just going to call that the Transit Vision. So over the past few years, and maybe more in a nutshell, there's been a lot of discussion locally about coming up with a coordinated vision for the future of our transit services in North Lake Tahoe and the Truckee area. So that led up to, about a year ago, almost exactly a year ago, a transit summit, which was a big meeting, a very lively group of people, well attended, with representation from resorts, businesses, lodging, local government, other people just interested in transportation in general, to talk about the future of transit and transportation in the North Tahoe, Truckee area. There were speakers from outside the area, Aspen, Colorado, Summit County, Colorado, Park City, Utah. They were all able to share with us what their successes and challenges were to implementing some of their transit services in resort areas similar to North Tahoe. All had different stories to share with us, a lot to learn from. And from the summit meeting, after that, we formed a group called the Resort Triangle Transit Vision Coalition, or the Coalition from now on. As noted in the staff report, there were committees that worked on various portions of what has now become a draft plan, which we're calling the Vision Plan. And it's a plan that outlines the services that would be provided under this kind of unified vision of transit services. And I will say that I went to a lot of these meetings, and there was very high level of vision and a lower level of vision, and we landed somewhere in the middle of something that we feel could be achievable over time under a certain set of circumstances, and also involves a number of achievable steps along the way. So I'll talk a little bit more about the plan in a few minutes, but first what I'd like to do is introduce again Sandy Evans Hall, the Executive Director of the North Lake Tahoe Resort Association, and we'll progress through the slides here a little bit, and she'll present some of the motivation behind the vision.
Great, thanks, Will. You know, we started out with this, and we showed this at the last Transportation Summit. We said, imagine if visitors could arrive by plane or train, be shuttled to their lodging, and explore the incredible amenities of North Lake Tahoe during peak seasons without ever needing an automobile. And if we can imagine a first-class transportation, we are that much closer to making it so. This was really the impetus behind our moving forward and really looking at a transportation plan that might allow us to actually achieve this. You know, as I arrived here and came from Colorado and saw the ski areas in Colorado and Utah, and knew that a lot of ski areas were looking at transportation as an amenity, not just a service to transport employees to and from their places of work, you know, it became clear to me that this was something that we really needed to look at here in the Lake Tahoe region, especially with our environmental concerns and with the need to move people amongst many ski areas and in a broader region. I thought this was an amenity that we needed to start to look at providing. So we, as Will mentioned, you know, we formed this coalition from all of the members that were participating in the summit last year who raised their hands and said, yes, we want to move forward and start to take this further. You know, we started to look at what it would cost to do a visionary system, and we had no holds barred. You know, when we started to put that vision together, the initial vision was everything we ever wanted in a transportation system. And of course, it came up to be extremely unaffordable for our region. So we backed off from that, and we came to something that we thought was within reach. One of the things that we looked at was why was this vision important in North Lake Tahoe? And as I mentioned, increased economic vitality is important. When we've got people in their own vehicles and they get stuck in the traffic congestion, it's hard to move them around and to really get them dining and shopping and enjoying everything that we have to offer in North Lake Tahoe. We think that the visitors that we're attracting here, especially the destination visitors, are used to this level of an amenity, and they have an expectation that they would like to have that. It doesn't exist here, and if they were to fly in and take our North Lake Tahoe Express and be delivered to North Lake Tahoe without an automobile, they're really kind of stuck. So we think an enhanced visitor experience is a good reason to move forward. Improved air quality and all of the environmental pieces we feel is really important. Vehicle miles traveled, the VMT, is one of the huge contributors to our lake clarity or lack of lake clarity. So we think that if we can resolve that, we can help with lake clarity, increase safety, getting people off the roads, traveling to and from dining in the evenings. We feel that we would be better off if we could put them on some safe transportation, reduce congestion, of course, and facilitating the hosting large events. When we look at Ironman, we look at Tough Mudder, when we look at a potential Olympic event in the future, we know that transportation is a key to getting those events to our area. And finally, greater parking availability. Not only parking availability, but the lack of a need to provide as much parking as we currently feel the need to do if we can remove some of those automobiles from the road. Another piece that we looked at besides costing out the vision and identifying funding mechanisms and that type of thing, we also looked at a peer comparison of what our other areas are doing. This is annual vehicle revenue hours, and as you'll see in all of these charts, you know, Lake Tahoe is falling behind what we would consider to be our primary competitors out there. This is annual funding of transit operations. Again, you know, we're down in the area of spending about as much as Mammoth Lakes, but most of our other areas are spending quite a bit more than we are on transit. This one was annual transit ridership, and as you can see, we're considerably below the other areas in terms of the number of riders we're able to move around. And now I'll turn it over to you, Will.
Okay. Thank you. I wanted to take a quick look back for the last 20 years here. I was able to pull some numbers together to show that there has been some growth. It hasn't been static. We've actually increased. This is only for TART, so it doesn't include Truckee and some of the other services not provided by TART. But this gives us a glance that we have grown by about 64% in terms of vehicle hours provided to the public since 1993. A lot of that was we added Highway 89 service for the longest time. There was no service to Squaw Valley and Truckee. And then we came along later and actually increased that service. We added Highway 267 service in the wintertime and a part of that route in the summertime. We added additional services in the summer to make the North Shore route more frequent, and a couple other just improvements around the edges where we added a few earlier morning runs to hit the commute, and in turn also some later afternoon, evening runs on a year-round basis. So there has been a lot of growth. And also we turned over the fleet during that time. This upcoming decade actually will be having to buy more fleet to replace the current fleet that we have. Kind of amazing. But anyway, so as we move on to look at the vision plan and some of the elements of it, this just shows, and I broke it out by TART, Truckee Transit, and the Night Rider. The Night Rider is managed by the Truckee North Tahoe Transportation Management Association, contracted by the Tahoe Transportation District and funded with TOT funds. But I wanted to put that on there because an important component is additional night service in this vision plan. And when you look at those three, the blue bar is what we're doing today, and the light blue bar on top of that is the amount of growth this vision plan envisions in terms of revenue vehicle hours offered. Then what I've done here is this is everything combined, same data. And one of the reasons I do this here is that one of the themes of the vision plan is a consolidated service, so that there's if you go to a bus stop in Truckee right now, you might have a Truckee bus stop sign and a TART bus stop sign, different phone numbers, different colors, different looks. So one of the ideas, of course, is to take this and brand it as one consistent service and potentially operate it under one umbrella entity or agency or JPA. But those are the kind of things to be determined as we move along in the vision process. By the way, the growth is about 74% in revenue vehicle service hours. Operating cost, obviously it's going to take more money to provide more service hours. The growth in operating cost is 57%, and the middle bar shows, or the middle piece of that bar shows the average growth, or the growth in operating costs if the vision were fully implemented. That top bar is the amount of average annual capital cost, because you'd have to buy more buses, improve some bus stops, a couple other facility improvements like in fueling and so forth. The cost, if you were to do it all in 1 year and start everything up, it would cost $6 million in capital funds. So that would be kind of a constraint, because you can't just go out and get $6 million in grants in an area this size all at one time. So it would be obviously have to be phased a little bit over time. What we're showing here is during the span of a day, there would be a growth in the amount of hours operated in a day. So right now, that blue bar is the typical TART operation, 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. all year long. In the off season, the vision would have us extending that to 9:30. A lot of ridership during the middle of the day doesn't happen because you can't get back to where you originated from after, say, 6 or 7 p.m., depending on where you are. So that's the advantage of that. And then in the peak seasons, to actually expand service all the way to 2 a.m. on some routes. And that is actually, we're in our second year with the night rider of doing that. And it has shown some success. I would say a little bit surprisingly, it is getting late night, well, early morning ridership at those times. People out frequenting our places that you like to frequent at 12 to 2 a.m. I want to run through these slides quickly here, but basically this shows TART's operating area, and this is the wintertime version of it. So the red line along Highway 267 is in full operation during the wintertime. North Star obviously is the center of that route. It serves Truckee and goes all the way to Crystal Bay. In the summertime, the route changes. In the wintertime, we run it with 2 buses. In the summertime, it's 1 bus, and it only goes as far as North Star. And then the rest of the year, in the shoulder season, like right now, there is no service on Highway 267. It's probably something that would have been achieved in the last 5 years had we not seen the recession that basically, hit all of our funding that we have for transit and other things. So it is something that definitely the vision looks at increasing and adding, and it's one of those things under the right set of funding arrangements and agreements with the town and other partners that could be done as one of those first measures in the vision to complete the whole circuit there. I put this slide up there to show where the Truckee routes are, and the point here is that they're contiguous with TART. It is all, when you put it together, it is a system. We do transfer at the Truckee Depot in downtown Truckee. That's our little hub, and that would be a key location for us as the vision were to move forward. And then finally, if you think back to those slides we showed earlier, if the vision were implemented, this is where North Tahoe would stack up in terms of a comparison to the other communities in service hours. And then we want to leave you with, I'll let Sandy maybe discuss a little bit about what's going to happen at the next Transit Summit meeting.
Okay. We're planning this on November 7th, and it will be at the Truckee Tahoe Airport from 10:30 to 2:30. We're going to be looking at everything that we've really been working on over the last 12 months. So you'll get a full detail analysis of where we've come, taking our existing service, looking at what it would take to make it free, more frequent, and consolidated, and a comprehensive transportation vision for our entire region. As Will mentioned, we not only have the Truckee and the North Lake Tahoe systems, but then when you add on Night Rider and Skier Shuttle and all of the various signage that is around, it's very easy to understand how the consumer can be confused. So by consolidating and really creating one single system that can do all of that is the direction that we would like to go with this vision. So we'll be explaining all of the work that we've done, like I said, with monthly meetings, with our cost structure analysis, with our allocation of cost analysis, with our funding mechanisms analysis. All of the various things that we've been looking at over the past year will be kind of described in detail at this summit. So we'd like to invite you to attend and learn all of the pieces behind this vision. And I have an invitation here, which I'll hand over to the clerk.
Unless there are questions.
All right, any comments, questions from board members?
I had a couple.
Oh, Supervisor Montgomery.
Will you had a, I don't think I'm on, there we are. Will, you had a couple of charts up there that showed comparisons between the various reporting areas in terms of transit service. Have we analyzed the difference in miles served amongst those areas? I mean, I think about Mammoth, and Mammoth itself is a fairly small community, but I don't know how far out they go into the surrounding community. What would be helpful for me in understanding those comparisons is understanding the mileage that each of those address, because obviously those cost drivers are going to be very closely tied to mileage. So that's just one question. I love the consolidated service model vision, and I wanted to point out that David Bosch has already come up with his own design for what that logo could look like. So I don't know if I'm telling tales on him out of school, but he showed it to me one day, and I thought, oh, that's actually pretty good. One of the things that I also just wanted to touch on was you mentioned that under this business model, we would need to improve our bus stops. We need to anyway, and you know that's one of my pet peeves that I'm constantly banging on about, which is we've got to get more bus shelters out for people. It's, you know, my husband would kill me if I picked them up, but I always feel this burning desire to pick up those poor people standing out there in the rain and the snow, you know, particularly our ski resort visitors from other countries who maybe have arrived a little bit unprepared for the actual climate. So I'm just going to more bus shelters. Right. Better bus shelters. And then last, something that Carolyn Pretzer, who's in the audience, has raised as an issue many times, and I think it's a really important issue, is that, you know, I think we as a county have an obligation to make sure that when we hold meetings, they are on bus lines and they are on bus routes so that people who do not have cars and do not have access to their own private transit can get to the meetings and attend. And it's something that we don't always succeed at, and I think we should keep that in mind when we're scheduling our own meetings. And those are just my comments, but really good presentation. I think a lot of very good data, and I will see you on November 7th.
Great. Thank you. Any other comments from board members? No. Anyone in the audience wish to address the... Yes, please come forward.
Morning.
Morning.
Ann Nichols, North Lake Tahoe resident. This is really great because I know if you've heard from last summer, everybody was really frustrated about the terrible traffic, and we did the counts on traffic coming down from 267 and turning right and left on 28, and it was up 25% from last year. So it was a huge increase, which would explain why things were so ugly. So that's really important. And then when we're looking at more units, you know, big development at Squaw Valley, 1,100 units at North Star, another 770 units at the top of 267, this is going to get very intense. And of course, the new development at Homewood. So we're going to need this more than ever. And I would love to see an analysis on those charts of who pays for this increase in service. Like it looked like it was great service in Aspen and Snowmass, and who pays for that? Is it the ski areas or is it the residents? Or I'm sure it's a combination, but that would be great to see. And, you know, nobody likes to see parking lots, but given our geography, it's really hard to walk, you know, in a lot of cases with groceries and all that. So if we could have, I'm sure you thought of that, is, you know, if we could have some drop-off places for cars so that people could get and use the bus system more easily. So anyway, that was my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. Appreciation to all, especially to our supervisor who listens. I really appreciate what you're doing. I'm going on to my 5th year without a car. It is possible to walk from Safeway to Tahoe Vista with my groceries, but I don't recommend it for anyone with a job or little kids. A lot of what you're putting up there is geared for the tourists, and that's appropriate. But there are an awful lot of us who ride the bus daily, not just the workforce people, who the majority, they're on the bus and they're coordinating. They park a car here and 6 of them get on buses in 2 directions, and then they meet in the afternoon. Please keep in mind where the hospital is when you're putting in these routes. I know of visitors this summer who took a child on the bus to North Star thinking they were going to get to the hospital in Truckee. I had to deeply apologize because they were taking my example of using the bus. Thank you. supervisor took away my comment about accessibility to the meetings. If anyone's going past Tahoe Vista on November 7th, I'll be out there. Thanks a lot.
We need your name for the record. Yeah, for the record, yeah. Thank you. Okay. Any comments, any more comments from members of the audience regarding this item? Seeing none, thank you very much. That's a great vision. Now we will move to item 3B, Bay Delta Conservation Plan Proposal Comment Letters. Mr. Story.
Honorable Chairman and board members, Brett Story representing Community Development Resource Agencies today. And as you recall, at your last meeting, Iner Maish of Placer County Water Agency presented you with some information about the issues involved in the Bay Delta Conservation Plan and a draft letter. Since that time, we've brought back, it's a similar draft letter. The letter is being put together to include as many members of the Sacramento region as possible. In addition, we prepared a second letter that's Placer County specific. And as a little more background to that, the California Department of Resources released the draft EIR of the Bay Delta Conservation Plan. We've reviewed it. There's a number of things in there that are not representative of what we see the vision of that is. Most importantly, the analysis shows that due to twin tunnels being developed and built, taking much of the water away from the Sacramento region, leaving what water is left to handle most of the environmental work of the environmental water that would keep the Bay Delta in proper salinity, would leave us in a dead pool situation in dry years in Folsom Reservoir. And all that means is that the water is being sent down the river. Dead pool means that it's below the level that water can be pulled out for much of West Placer County, as well as part of Sacramento County in the Folsom region. I think you'll agree those are results that could be potentially catastrophic to our region. And in fact, part of the analysis would look at if we had that happen every 8 or 10 years, that could pose a significant state and federal aid, much like the Hurricane Katrina operations that have taken place in the past, and we all don't wish to see any of that accomplished. The region-wide letter is still in draft form. We all apologize for that. We had hoped to have it ready to go today, but they're still trying to make sure we include as many of the regional groups as possible. Our letter is in final format. What we ask is that you allow staff to continue to figure out the proper timing and work with the board chairman to sign both of these letters in the proper timing. Your letter, which represents Placer County and has the specific things that would happen to our county, to our people, to our agriculture, to our businesses, and to even the streams and stewardship work that's been done in our area, has been detailed in the letter representing all of your districts. But we ask that you allow us a little bit of time to make sure that these letters go in conjunction. We do reference in the Placer County letter the regional letter, so we kind of want to make sure they get set in the proper sequence. And a last item, I will just let you know that both letters are consistent with your board legislative platform on regional water policy, in that it looks at protecting the rights of the water for Placer County citizens. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any question or entertain any changes. Other than that, we would ask that you authorize the chair to support this effort.
Any comments from board members?
Yeah, I've got a question.
Yeah.
I just want to clarify again, the letter that we're writing on behalf of the county, yes, that is still in flux?
No, that letter is final.
Okay.
And in fact, we even had fine edits from our CEO to top it off, and I think it's in great shape.
Okay. The only concern I have is approving a letter that's being written for the rest of the group without us seeing it before it goes out again.
Yeah, two things with that. As I understand, the only potential changes are more signatories to the letter. If there were substantial changes, we would have to reevaluate whether we wanted those. But before we would even have the chairman sign, I would make sure and bring any changes, any additions to it or whatever to the board chairman before we decide to do anything. But in my discussions with Iner Maish, Placer County Water Agency, he does not anticipate any substantive changes to the letter other than adding people on. There may be a desire for other members of the region to send their own regional letter, in which case it would be as completely as you see it today.
Great. Okay, that takes care of my concern.
Supervisor Montgomery.
Yeah, Brett, thank you very much for bringing this forward today. I'm really pretty comfortable with both letters as they stand. In the future, I know that we'll very likely be sending additional letters and commentary in the future because this is not going to be resolved in the next couple of months. One of the things that I would like to see us focus a little bit more on and emphasize a little bit more is the apparent responsibility that the governor's office seems to believe that Northern California has to address salinity intrusion coming from sea rise. And that, I've said repeatedly that I think the rise in sea level that we're going to see through climate change is exacerbated by the Bay Delta Plan and is exacerbated by the Twin Tunnels. And I think it's very important that we really get the message across to the governor and to all the other decision makers on the Bay Delta Plan specifically that Northern California cannot be the only area that is responsible to try to hold back that salinity. This is a statewide problem because we all drink fresh water and we all need fresh water. And so in the future, I'd just like to see if the board's in agreement, a little bit more emphasis on the fact that this needs to have a statewide solution, not rest on the back of those of us up here in Northern California who get the snowfall and most of the rainfall and provide most of the fresh water through the Bay Delta project.
Yes, certainly, Supervisor, we can emphasize that in our letters. It is in the regional letter that refers to the aqua management, which wants to look at a statewide solution. And yesterday, as a matter of fact, two of your board members and your CEO, myself and some others from the county were at I'll call it a rally workshop, which was basically Northern California standing up for its water rights, and there was members of the state water agency there, and hopefully they listened, and a lot of issues were brought forth. And more than likely, this process will be lengthy, and we will have ample opportunities. But I believe staff agrees with that it is worth fighting for. It is our life.
Right. Absolutely. Thank you.
Good. Any more comments from board members? Anyone in the audience wish to address this item? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board for action.
Move that we authorize the chairman to sign the two letters on behalf of the Board of Supervisors.
Second.
Moved and seconded to move the item. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any abstentions or noes? Okay, it's fine. I'm going to turn the next item over to, thank you, over to Supervisor Duran while I leave the room for a minute.
Great. We'll go ahead and move on to item 3C, update on Tahoe area projects. Michael Johnson. And you're not Michael Johnson? I'm just...
Good morning, board members. Paul Thompson with Planning Services here today to provide your board with an update of some of the projects in the Tahoe area that the CEDRA staff is currently working on. The first project I have, and where's the... Thanks, Greg. First project is the Tahoe Basin Community Plan update. As you know, Crystal Jacobson is working on this project. Just like to commend her, first of all, commend her efforts on this. She's really doing a great job moving this project forward and getting all the meetings and getting everything done on that. Staff is continuing the update of the 9 community plans in the Tahoe Basin. As part of the project outreach strategy and the update, staff has conducted over 20 community workshops and meetings, including focused visioning efforts that occurred this summer for the Kings Beach and Tahoe City area. Staff is currently conducting a series of topical workshops running through November, which are intended to further inform the policy document. All work generated from the community workshops and meetings will be posted on our webpage. Next Wednesday, the Planning Commission will have a special meeting up in Tahoe here where the staff will be seeking direction from the commission on various elements and issues associated with work done to date. It's anticipated that draft planning documents will be released to the Technical Advisory Committee and the Plan Area team members for review in spring of 2014. There will then be a series of workshops to consider stakeholder comments. Release of the final planning documents is anticipated in the summer of 2014 with Planning Commission and Board deliberations hopefully planned for late 2014, early 2015. Then after, it is anticipated that all the adopted community plan documents will be submitted to the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency in early or spring of 2015 for the regional plan conformance review process. So moving on to current projects, Squaw Valley here, we have a small residential project that we're working on. It's the development of up to 8 new residential lots. It's currently, it's the old Squaw Valley stable property. It's approximately 3.9 acres, and it's located along Squaw Valley Road. Here's a vicinity map showing the location. And then here is, oh, I didn't have that. That's the vicinity map as well as the tentative map. The staff has completed the initial review of the project and has requested additional information from the applicant prior to making an environmental determination. Should mention that this project also requires an amendment to the Squaw Valley General Plan. The staff has provided comments to the applicant, and responses to the comments are due back in late October. We've also been to the Squaw Valley MAC as an information item back in October, early October. Another project we're working on, and that has been a topic of previous updates of your board, is the Squaw Valley, the Village at Squaw Valley Specific Plan. That project proposes a comprehensive plan development of an all-season recreational-based resort community consisting of up to 2,184 bedrooms. This is a slide of the specific plan area. The specific plan proposes also to develop commercial, retail, recreational uses, as well as establishing new traffic circulation patterns, pedestrian paths, and trails, as well as undertaking a comprehensive stream restoration program. The EIR consultant is currently working on the first administrative draft EIR, and the applicant is working closely with the Squaw Valley Public Services District on the water supply assessment model that will be needed for the draft EIR. Staff also attends monthly Squaw Valley MAC meetings, and also has a monthly project newsletter that we post on our website. We're proposing to be in front of the Squaw Valley Citizens Design Review Committee on November 7th of this, November 7th. Moving on to the North Star area, the first project is the Martis Valley West parcel. It was mentioned here earlier. This project proposes a density transfer from 6,376 acre parcel on the east side of Highway 267 to a 775 acre parcel on the west side of 267. The project also includes an amendment to the Martis Valley Community Plan, as well as a focused area plan for 112 acres of the west parcel that is located within the Tahoe Basin. Here's a vicinity map of that project. The specific plan, a specific plan will be developed that will identify development patterns and densities and associated infrastructure for the west parcel, and that's the area that's in yellow there on the PowerPoint slide. A little closer up view of the actual land use plan. Under the proposed project, 775 acre west parcel, and that's what we're looking at right now, would be developed for 760 residential units, 6 0.6 acres of commercial units, and then the remaining 345 acres would remain designated as the forest zoning. On the east side, 660 acres of the east side parcel would be designated from development to the forestry zoning. The initial project application has been submitted, along with the scope of work from the EIR consultant. Those documents are currently being reviewed by the Environmental Review Committee. We should be providing comments to the applicant shortly on those documents, as well as back to the EIR consultant. We've also provided a statement of intent to the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency requesting a focused area plan to be processed with the county's review of the project. Another North Star project that we're working on is the North Star Mountain Master Plan. This project proposes a master conditional use permit to allow for improvements at the North Star Ski Resort. It has project level components as well as programmatic level components. As far as project level, the improvements include 5 new ski lifts and ski runs, as well as new skier site services. The project requires an amendment to the Martis Valley Community Plan, as well as a rezone to relocate some commercial land use designation on the mountain. It also requires a zoning text amendment to allow for ski lifts and ski runs within the Timberland Production Zone District. The program level improvements include another lift, as well as a gondola that will connect the intercept lot to the village. The project also proposes some non-skier recreational activities as well, and this might be a zip line, climbing wall, things of that sort. Staff is in the process of reviewing the first administrative draft EIR for the project, and we anticipate that the draft EIR will be circulated for public review before Christmas. The last project is in the Alpine Meadows area, and it proposes to subdivide a 46-acre site into 33 single-family residential homes, as well as 14 attached single-family homes. Here's a vicinity map of that site. Here's a closer-up view of the tentative map for the project. A draft notice of preparation has been submitted to the county for review. That was done earlier this month, and it has been circulated for the staff to review, and we anticipate that the notice of preparation will be sent out in November of this November. The project has also been presented to the North Tahoe Regional Advisory Council as an information item. So the project manager on this project is Alex Fish. That concludes my comments or an update. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer those at the board.
Any questions, comments from board members? Supervisor Montgomery?
Yeah, I have a few things that, excuse me, that I'd like to clarify or like to add, and thank you very much for the update. It's certainly not comprehensive. There's a lot of other things going on up here in the east end of the county as well on somewhat smaller scales, but it just, I think, really points out the fact that there's a lot happening up here in this area. It doesn't even touch on some of this stuff happening at Sugar Bowl or some of the other projects up here, but very good overview. In terms of the Squaw Valley Stables, you mentioned that would require a Squaw Valley General Plan amendment. Is that for the rezone of the property?
Yes, that's correct.
And why would that be necessary for this project?
The project is currently designated as forest recreation, and that doesn't allow for the residential development. So it'll have to be rezoned. There'll have to be a rezoning as well as a general plan amendment to change that to a residential zoning district.
And that's, if I recall correctly, I've been reading the Squaw Valley General Plan a lot lately. As I recall, that's because there's some language in the Squaw Valley General Plan that says that no new development should occur within the meadow. Is that correct?
This particular requirement is just that the forest recreation designation does not allow for residential development. So I think maybe at the time the Squaw Valley Stables came in, that's what it was currently zoned, and it just remained that.
Mm-hmm. And that zoning, that existing forest recreation zoning does allow a number of uses. I know at the last Squaw Valley MAC, the idea of potentially putting in some sort of fire station that would be necessary if the Squaw Valley Village project goes forward, that would be a location that would currently allow that use. Someone also mentioned that a museum would be currently allowable under that use. So there's a lot of potential uses that already exist at that location that would not require a rezone. Is that correct?
That's correct.
On the Martis Valley project, can you just explain a little bit more about the focused area plan and why that would be necessary for this project?
So a portion of the project comes over into the Tahoe Basin. It's approximately 112 acres. 83 or so is proposed for development. And as a part of the TRPA requirements, the county has to submit on behalf of the applicant, a focused area plan.
And we're doing that because the current area planning that we're doing does not include this area, because we're really focusing on the developed areas along the lake in the Tahoe Vista and Kings Beach areas. So this is not contiguous to any of the current plans that we're working on.
Yeah, the commercial town center stuff that Crystal's working on, she's moving that forward on a separate path. This is a developer proposal that is moving on a different path, but it does require an area plan, and it's required. The TRPA rules are the county has to submit that to TRPA, but the developer will be initiating or preparing that document to move forward.
All right, understood. And then I think one of the things that's most significant to point out about this Martis Valley proposal is that it's supported in principle by Sierra Watch, by the Mountain Area Preservation Group, and by the Truckee Donner Land Trust. And so it's pretty unusual in this day and age to see a proposal of this nature that's supported by the major conservation groups in the area. And so I was just delighted to see that move forward. On the Alpine project, I know that at least in the past, and forgive me because I'm not fully updated on it, there was some concern, and I think the chief already left, which is too bad, but there was some concern from North Tahoe Fire regarding a secondary or EVA exit. And has that been resolved? Because I know that our board as a policy is very concerned about allowing new subdivisions, certainly on this scale, that only has one entrance.
Sure. And at one point, I know that the applicant was trying to work with, I believe, the Bear Creek Association and trying to move forward on a secondary access. I believe, unfortunately, those discussions may have stopped. So at this point, I don't believe that there is a secondary access that they were hoping for. That being said, we'll make sure and consider just the single access and make sure that that's addressed in the environmental document as well.
Okay, because again, as you well know, because we've had this discussion about a number of different development proposals up in the east end of the county, I have real concerns about that as well. At these higher elevations, my concerns really are relating to both wildfire, but also in the case of Alpine and some of these other areas, some avalanche danger and some issues relating to that. And I'm always very mindful of the fact that, our policy as a board is that we really think there should be secondary entrances and exits for these things. So if one does get blocked from some sort of emergency, there's an opportunity both for residents to evacuate, but also for emergency services to get in to provide the services that are necessary.
Sure.
So I would just ask that we be very mindful of that moving forward.
Absolutely. I'll be sure and pass that along as well.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you. Any other comments from board members? Anyone in the audience wish to address the board on this item? Good morning again. There we go.
Good morning, Ellie Waller, Tahoe Vista resident. No disrespect, excuse me, to Crystal and her staff. She's been given direction to move forward on this. The community planning process has been rushed and I feel hijacked from the community. The community portion of this plan has been taken away from the 4 teams. We have not finished the crucial process involving height, density, massing, setback, allowed uses, or overall community character. We are now in the topical phase. The entire community has been invited to come out to these meetings, which they are invited to all the meetings. The Technical Advisory Committee and the consultant are now going to be finessing incomplete documents, and the outside agency representatives do not necessarily represent the views of the teams that the county went through a lengthy process to select. And then this also segues into the Martis Valley parcel initial project application, which I've left pages with you, plus one of the maps that Paul provided. The staff report is underway, but it's not yet complete. The application states that there is 85 acres in the Tahoe Basin, and even though Michael Johnson, there's also a letter that I've attached to your packet there, states, while a portion of the land include East-West Partners' SPI application is technically within the basin, the reality is that land is approximately 3 miles away from the core. There is no physical or logical connection between the basin land included with the SPI projects to Kings Beach or Tahoe Vista. Additionally, SPI is not proposing any development that is inconsistent. The current process of area planning was done for the community, and this does affect Tahoe by VMT. There will be recreation impacts possibly in Kings Beach as well as Tahoe Vista during the summertime. The VMT numbers are only analyzed at winter. This is being proposed as a 4-season, full-time destination. The resort recreation zoning was and still remains a contentious issue. The 208 plan, which released an additional 300 plus acres for resort recreation, has not been analyzed in the environmental impact study for the regional plan update. The west parcel proposed should not be segregated in advance of this community planning process. This proposed area plan should be part of the process, not a separate effort. And I have about 6 pages of comments for Paul Thompson and the staff on the initial project application. There's lots of problems. There's HOA and not TRPA regulations stated in there. There's going to be 200 acres of graded area. It doesn't really state specifics. I won't go into the 6 pages of recommendations. Thank you.
Is there anyone else wish to address the board on this item? Morning again.
Morning again. Ann Nichols, North Tahoe Preservation Alliance. The Conservation Coalition at Tahoe is really concerned about the Martis Valley West project. In the application, it says 85 acres in the basin. I guess now it's 112. The application is very flawed, needs to be redone. It's full of inconsistencies and incorrect statements. But most importantly is like, oh, this is so great. You know, you're saving 6,000 acres and all you're doing is ransoming, I guess, 112 acres in the basin. In the agreement with MAP and Sierra Watch, their agreement to transfer this land is conditioned on being able to develop inside the basin. Then they can have lake views, you know, kind of think the Schaefer's Mill kind of developments. All that's fine. But the reason MAP and Sierra Watch are for this is it says right in their agreement they have to be for it if they're going to get the conservation easement on the 6,600 acres. So the trade is the 6,600 acres on the east side is being traded for 1,100 acres on the west side. The 1,100 acres on the west side is currently zoned forest. It doesn't allow development. In this density transfer, the density from the east side would be transferred to this forest zone land on the west side. Zoning changes, community plan changes, general plan changes, land use changes, all those amendments would be required. And so why do you care? This is such a great trade, right? Well, it's a terrible precedent. You know, the slippery slope you guys hate to hear about. Because if they do this, Anytime land is saved outside the basin, it could justify development within the basin. For a hyperbole, you say you keep New York City from flooding, do you get to develop in the basin? This shouldn't be, it should be a standalone application. If these developers want to develop on that 112 acres, 85, whatever it is, they should do a standalone application for resort recreation, not justified by the saving of land outside the basin. It puts a spin on it that's inappropriate. Do their application for the lands inside the basin and the density transfer, fine, west to east, whatever you want, but don't condition the land development in the basin on saving land outside the basin. There's 5 counties at the lake. If there's large landholders on the other side of the ridge, they can do all these kind of trades nonstop. There's 320 acres that can be developed this way. So it's just a terrible precedent. They have a right to do this, but just do a standalone application, no spin justification. And I thank you very much. Here's some details. For this project, the vehicle trips per day, 3,434, population 2,000. I'll give this to you.
Good, thank you. Does anyone else wish to address the board on this item? Seeing none, this is just an information item, so no action is requested. Thank you very much, Paul. Thank you, everybody, for your comments. We'll now move to item 4, County Executive North Lake Tahoe 2013-14 Skier Shuttle Operations Project. And this is Will Garner again and Jennifer Merchant. Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman Holmes, members of the board. You've got a 2-for-1 this morning. This is a County Executive Office Department Head item, but I will be joined for the last 3 requested actions on this by Will Garner with Public Works, because it does, the funding request regarding TOT does impact TART operations as proposed. So the recommended expenditure of up to $46,000 in Tahoe Transient Occupancy Tax funds will support the 2nd year of a pilot North Lake Tahoe skier shuttle program. The service, as proposed, will operate on 46 days between December 15th and March 16th. The schedule provides for 2 morning and afternoon runs from the Hyatt Regency in Incline Village and 1 morning and afternoon run connecting Homewood, Alpine Meadows, and Squaw Valley ski resorts each weekend during that period of time, plus 2 continuous 2-week periods around the Christmas and President's Day holidays. The season's skier shuttle system includes several changes to reduce costs compared to last year, improve service, and eliminate conflicts with the existing TART service schedule. TART will be operating the system this year with vehicles already in its fleet, so the service will appear seamless to the user. Last year's service was operated by a private provider based out of Reno, Nevada. Additionally, due to stripping back ineffective routes from last year's schedule and lower per-hour operational costs, the cost per passenger trip will be reduced from an average $70 per passenger trip last year and as high as $150 on the most least productive routes to an average of $25 per passenger this year, assuming ridership is the same this year as last year. Any improvements in ridership will cause that per passenger cost to decrease, and that is frankly expected with this year's service. Of the $46,000 in TOT funding being requested, $26,000 will be allocated to TART for operational costs. Up to an additional $20,000 will be set aside for a voucher program that will be managed by Placer County Lodging Properties. And this was recommended after much discussion at the North Lake Tahoe Resort Association Board of Directors and proposed by the lodging properties. The vouchers can be used by guests who prefer to ride TART to and from the ski resorts on earlier or later runs during the days of operation or on other off-peak days when the skier shuttle is not being operated. This program component will add $1.50 per passenger cost for each voucher used, but only actual cost for vouchers used will be charged against the program. The total skier shuttle program cost is $101,000. About $59,000 of that is dedicated to TART operational expenses, $35,000 to program marketing, and $7,000 for system monitoring and performance analysis. Of this total cost, $26,000 will be funded with TOT, $66,000 paid by Squaw Valley and Alpine Meadows resorts, and $2,300 by Homewood Mountain Resort. And there's a $7,000 project savings from last year that would be dedicated also back into the expenses. And as is the case with all pilot transit operation projects, the funding source for the proposed service is TOT infrastructure account dollars held in the county treasury. Other than funds budgeted in the Resort Association budget for ongoing services, there is no transportation account budget set aside for pilot or service expansions. So the funds for these services always are drawn from the infrastructure account. The project is consistent with the North Lake Tahoe Resort Association Tourism and Community Investment Master Plan, and your board's approval was unanimously recommended by the Resort Association Board of Directors. Because the proposed expenditure will fund an extension of existing TART bus service, your board is not only being requested to approve the allocation of TOT funds, but also several actions requested by DPW, and Will is here to provide some remarks about those requested actions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Again, Will Garner, Public Works. So for the DPW portion of this, we're adding $59,000, or we're requesting to add $59,000 to the TART budget, which is not currently there. So this program wasn't anticipated when the budget was proposed. So the first action, part of the action, is to, within a resolution, to adopt a resolution simply to allow the Department of Public Works to operate this service and free of charge to the passengers. So no fares will be charged on the ski shuttle runs, the added ski shuttles. And then part of adding this service is that we're going to have to increase the number of drivers that we get through our seasonal driver contract through MV Transportation. That's going to require an additional $30,000 of all of this funding to go towards that contract. So $30,000 of our expenses is for driver labor through the MV Transportation contract. And then we will also have to approve a budget revision to add it's actually $58,700 to the TART budget for fiscal year 2013-14. And then authorize the Director of Public Works to execute a funding agreement with the Truckee North Tahoe Transportation Management Association. This agreement has been in place for many years now, since about 2000. And this is an agreement whereby the TMA, our partner, it takes the funds or receives all the funds from resorts, collects them in smaller pieces, adds it up to a large amount, and it's been $50,000 for several years for TART to add winter service. So we're going to use the same mechanism to add in the portion contributed by Squaw Valley and Homewood to fund their portion of the additional ski shuttle this year. So therefore, it requires authorization from your board to allow the Public Works Director to execute that agreement. So that rounds out all the actions required for us to implement the ski shuttle this winter. And if there's any questions, be happy to answer.
Any questions from board members? Supervisor Montgomery.
I do have a question just in terms of the funding partnership on this. I mean, I have a lot of questions, but the first question that comes to mind is the shuttle initiates in Incline Village, and what I don't see is any identified contribution from our partner in Nevada to this project proposal, but what I do see is a benefit to them, and I'm wondering why we don't look to them to help fund this project.
That's a good question. That was certainly part of the discussion at the Resort Association Board of Directors meeting when this was brought forth for their consideration. That while there is definitely a benefit that accrues to the Hyatt Regency property in Incline Village outside of Placer County, it was felt that the benefits to drawing those visitors who are staying at the Hyatt Regency into Placer County to spend money at the ski resorts and in the communities was a greater benefit than the actual kind of share of the cost that would have gone to the Hyatt Regency. We did break it out and looked at a dollar figure if we were to charge the Hyatt Regency for participation. I think it was in the neighborhood of $6,000 to $7,000. So that was discussed, but it was not recommended by the Resort Association because it was felt that it was a benefit just as it is. And I think for comparison purposes, North Star operates their own transit system. Actually, it compares with the size of TART's bus system. And they provide service to the Hyatt Regency really for the same business model, and that is with the thought that they're bringing people from a different jurisdiction to spend money in our jurisdiction. So it was felt that it's a fair service to be provided.
Yeah, understood. I just struggle with the fact that, you know, North Star chooses as a private business to engage in that business model. And,
Right.
you know, what we're talking about here are public dollars, taxpayer dollars. I'm not going to object to this today, but I just want to be very clear that if this comes back next year, I either want to see a contribution from the Hyatt or our other partners in Nevada, or I want to have representatives from Homewood, Alpine, Squaw here saying, yes, we see this as a benefit. And I don't know if there's any representatives from those specific resorts in the audience today. If so, I'd be really interested in hearing their take on that.
I don't think that there are specifically, but certainly from the Resort Association Board. And I do want to point out that their contributions really do make up that difference because the public funding is up to $46,000, $26,000 of it directly for the operations, and then the second $20,000 for the Placer County specific lodging voucher program. And so really it was felt that the funding provided by the private sector, the $66,000 from Squaw Valley and the $2,300 from Homewood, were more than made up for that component. Basically, it was their dollars that were funding that piece of connection outside of the jurisdiction. So it was felt that it was, even though there wasn't a direct contribution from the Hyatt, that the contributions from the ski resorts made up that difference.
Okay, and I will just take it upon myself between now and next year, when I imagine this item will be coming back to us, to have those conversations directly with our resort partners at Squaw, Alpine, and Homewood, and North Star to verify that they really do believe that the benefit to them outweighs the dollars we're not seeing from that partner.
And they were at the Resort Association meeting and did provide comment to that point specifically. So I'm comfortable in making the recommendation that it is equitable.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other board comments? Seeing none, anyone in the audience wish to address this item? Seeing none, we'll bring it back.
You were hiding. Hi, my name's Ron Trebus. I work with the Resort Association, and I also have the opportunity to be associated with the Tahoe Transportation District, the Placer County Transportation Planning Agency, and the TMA that Jennifer had referred to. I would just like to support what Jennifer said about that I specifically and got the acknowledgement from Squaw Valley, Alpine, and Homewood that they wanted to take a portion of their shares and pay the amount that would take this service from Kings Beach or State Line to the Hyatt Regency, just as the North Star bus pays for their service from that. And that was part of their agreement in putting up a great amount of funds toward this service, which is a good step in how our overall transportation vision will be working with various funding partners. In supporting this year, this is a step toward that vision that was presented earlier, as are many of the services that we now provide through your good support of TOT funding. And I assume TOT funding is what's called Lake Tahoe Tourism and Promotions Funds. But anyway, things such as the Airport Express, the service till 2 a.m., which takes a lot of employees home, and the North Lake Tahoe Water Shuttle. These are all projects that we have advocated that the county has stepped up for, and in many cases, such as this one, provided the service for these great transit opportunities, and that these are all parts of what this vision will provide once we get that all together. And that vision not only will provide all of those, but it will tie in with Trans-Sierra transportation plan that's being put together now that serves a much greater area. So again, our appreciation for you all standing behind these and funding through the TOT these individual services that will help to make that vision. And the skier shuttle is a good one to continue rather than let it drop and then try to pick it up again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ron.
And Ron, let me just follow up on that and say I absolutely am 100% supportive of everything you've just said. I just think that it's really important that we as a board understand, where do the dollars come from, who benefits, and make sure that it is an equitable agreement. I think that is our responsibility. So thank you.
Very much so. And we have an existing situation going on right now that I think we're going to overcome. That through TOT, we have also, as a part of this skier shuttle system, provided funds in conjunction with the town of Truckee and the Donner ski areas to take a bus up to there. And just recently, I had heard that perhaps Sugar Bowl was not going to fund that this year. And if that doesn't occur, which I don't know that won't, our Placer County funds should not go toward that, because that's the only ski area that Donner Summit bus is providing service to that's in Placer County. So we are watching that.
Yeah, well, hopefully with Sugar Bowl having acquired the Royal Gorge cross-country area, we'll be able to see that transit service reestablished as well. And it would be nice to have a number of Placer County ski resorts on Donner Summit served by transit.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ron.
Mr.
Anyone else
Chairman?
wish to address?
I'm sorry. If somebody else from the audience would like to speak, I would defer, of course.
Speak to the board on this item. Seeing none.
Yes, I just wanted to commit to returning to your board with an update at the end of the season, when we have an opportunity, perhaps at the April meeting, with a brief report on how the service rolled out during the year. And certainly we can be looking at trying to search for other funding sources in the Incline Village area in future years. But we're happy to come back and report to your board about that in the future.
All right, thank you. Seeing no more public comment on this item, I'll entertain a motion.
I move approval of item 4A, 1, 2, 3, and 4.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the item regarding the North Lake Tahoe 2013-14 skier shuttle operations project. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Montgomery.
Yes.
Duran.
Yes.
Euler. Holmes.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. The item has been moved. We'll now move to item 4B. You okay there?
The mass exodus.
North Lake Tahoe Resort Association Strategic Goals Progress Report. Sandy Evans Hall. Hello there.
Hey, Supervisor Jim, Chairman, and the rest of the Board of Supervisors. I'm glad to be here today to report on how our strategic goals are progressing. I have in your packet an executive summary, and I think you have received from me also a full-on action plan and report card that will give you some background on all of the thought that goes into trying to move these goals forward from year to year and our success in moving them forward. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, let me see if I can get this moving forward. There we go. When I came to you a couple of years ago, and I was new in the position, and I said, here are some early observations, and I wanted to just kind of reinforce that those observations are still true today. Transportation is very important to us. I think, as we sit up here in North Lake Tahoe, we've got this Donner Summit to get over. We've got to be able to get our people here by air service. We need to have good airlift into Reno and Sacramento, and we need to have good transportation on the roads. So it still is today one of our top priorities that we work on. Wayfinding signage is another one that we've spent a lot of time and effort on, and we have had some success, and we hope that in the next 2 years now we'll start to actually see the signs in the ground. The bike trails, that whole trail system is remarkable, and we need to continue to make that what our master plan really is saying, which is enclosing the entire Truckee Triangle with a bike trail system and also reaching from state line to Tahoma. So that is something that we continue to put and recommend TOT expenditures on. And then the built environment really still needs redevelopment in order for us to be competitive, especially with lodging and all of the other things that we have. And I'm pleased to say, you know, we've had some success in that with Placer County's involvement. Oops, now I can go forward. Okay. Tourism, I like to call it, is the lifestyle house that we all live in. It really is the driver, and it creates the motivation for people to come up here. We have other forms of our economy that we need to continue to pay attention to, whether it's healthcare, whether it's environmental innovation, but tourism still remains the primary industry that creates this lifestyle and recreation lifestyle house that we all live in. We have a very professional and committed staff at our resort association, and it's nice to be able to work in partnership with the committed staff at the Placer County offices. We also have a very passionate and dedicated volunteer board, and they really care a lot about what happens to North Lake Tahoe. These are some of the successes that we've seen. We've had a 15% increase in TOT, and this was our 5-year goal. So we actually achieved that in year 3. I asked the board if I could take it off the list, and they said, no, you can just increase that. So now our goal is 20%. Our visitor centers, we built that new one in Tahoe City thanks to your support with TOT monies. We are now up 152% in our visitation. This means that we're getting that information and hopefully expanding the experience that our visitors are having in North Lake Tahoe. And we also moved our location in Kings Beach from the former site at the Conservancy area over to the state parks area, and that has also seen a tremendous expansion in our visitor services there. And then we have created in-market visitor guides. We've really expanded our mobile site and usage, and our maps, both cross-country map and our regular map of North Lake Tahoe. And those are in high demand. We actually ran out of visitor guides this summer, so that was 50,000 that were put into visitors' hands. Our event strategy of really trying to focus on those off-seasons, the shoulder seasons, extending our summer out into September, October, making June a stronger month, looking at some of those periods during the winter season at the lake, have really paid off. And this year with Ironman, Tough Mudder, the Tahoe Nalo, all of the human-powered sports initiatives, I think we're really seeing that compression, pushing our visitors into the month of October that we haven't had before. This kind of shows our TOT growth in that first graph there. So you can see, you know, that we are, I don't know if that's going to work. Oh, there it is. You can see that we're definitely on that uphill slide, which means we're coming out of that recession. 10-11 was our record year. We had a little bit of a dip in 11-12 due to the no snow year. And then this last year, even though we had a loss of snow in the later part of the season, because we had such a good snowfall in December, and because our roads were clear, we were getting those visitors up there every weekend, and we were actually able to exceed what we had done in what was a very high snowfall year in this 10-11 year. We also have seen in our visitor centers, and this is kind of shows where we have come in terms of being able to really provide that visitor experience and recommendations to those visitors. We have a goal for every visitor that comes through our visitor center that we make at least 2 referrals out to our local communities. So when you take a look at the total numbers that we're seeing in there, over 40,000, you can say about 80,000 referrals have gone out to our local communities due to getting those people into the centers. These are some of the successes that we've had in transportation. As Ron mentioned, you know, we've done our second year in the water shuttle. We will most likely be coming back to you with a proposal on how we'd like to do year 3, but we want to really take a look at our ridership increase and what our success has been in that, and then be able to say what we think we can do in the future. Skier shuttle, we're very pleased that you have supported the new voucher system that will actually move us closer to our vision of transportation being free to our visitors and guests throughout the winter season. We have the Night Rider, which has been increasing and really helping people move around to our restaurants and exploring our restaurants and clubs in the area. And then our Transit Vision, free, frequent, comprehensive, consolidated, and branded regional service. Oops. Back on that one. Wayfinding signage master plan was completed this last year, and this is actually a location master plan. So it takes a look at each sign that we would like to put in the ground, where that should be located, what kind of easements are going to be involved in that, what type of sign we'd want to use. So in addition to our specifications that we've already put together, this now actually says this is where those signs are going to go. So we are now working on moving in from our gateways in. We have a proposal in, and we're working with Public Works on how we might be able to improve upon those signs, and we've also got Caltrans involved in that. So we hope, although we may not make it in the ground by this October, we hope early next spring that we'll be starting to put all of those signs in place. We earned a bicycle-friendly status, which is the bronze level. We are in the process of ordering those signs and getting them out throughout all of East Placer County. Trail systems, you know, our completions that we're seeing with the new grant dollars, we hope to be able to see that Meeks Bay and Dollar Creek Trail get on the road very soon. And then we have completed the Lakeside Trail. Homewood will be done when Caltrans moves up the West Shore. And then working with the county on proactive approach to private property investment. I'm very excited about some of the catalyst projects that were underway in both Tahoe City and Kings Beach. And of course, our Kings Beach commercial core improvement is now moving forward. So these are some pictures of some things that we are working on, and you'll see our 4 iron women there in the picture that are our winners from North Lake Tahoe. And new on the horizon, what we're going to be working on over the next couple of years, destination visitor growth. This is something that we feel we need to now move away a little bit from our home base in the Bay Area and really try to expand our destination visitor coming from out of town, staying longer, and contributing to our economy. The intercept and focused activity research is something that we're going to be putting in place this summer. That focused activity research is really taking us in our human-powered sports initiative to that next level of how do we really make North Lake Tahoe the place that these people want to be for those activities. And that will also include amenity development for human-powered sports. So it may be bike racks, it may be paddle sports, racks at the beaches, things like that, that we can really kind of step up our level of service within that human-powered sports initiative arena. We want to increase our TOT to 20% over 10-11, which I think we may actually achieve that this next year. Transit Summit, November 7th, you know all about that. New event bids, we're actually working on a USA Cycling event bid right now, which we hope, if we're successful, that may bring an event in June that would round out, again, our shoulder seasons, and then getting that wayfinding signage in the ground. And now we're going to have Andy Chapman coming up here to join me, and we're going to be talking a little bit about Ironman 2013.
Thank you, Sandy, and thank you, Mr. Chair and the board. I first wanted to just thank the Board of Supervisors for your support in this effort. It was about a 2-year effort dating back to right after the Amgen race, almost tried to get up here, and our Board of Directors as well in the support, and certainly the community, the volunteers that we had. I mean, it really took a village, as they say. And I don't know if the chiefs are still in the audience, but without the help of the fire chiefs and Placer County sheriffs, and the CHP, that this race would not have happened. But we had a race, and there's a picture of one of the pro women athlete coming out of the water in a very cold morning. I sat in Squaw on Saturday watching the rain coming down and lower level snowfall hitting, and I had thoughts of the Amgen Tour of California race that I had to beat out of my mind. But we had a race. It was a very good race. A lot of things were learned from that race. So I'm just going to do a short presentation here. We are still collecting data and getting the detailed review of the race. We have not had a chance to sit back down with World Triathlon Corporation. They had their Kona World Championships 2 weeks ago. So we have our debrief meetings with them scheduled in the next week or so. This is just a picture of the two winning pro athletes. You got Chris McDonald up there in a very fast 8 hours and 55 minutes for this course, and Anna Lundstrom at 9 hours and 58 minutes. So those times are about an hour slower than what these pros typically would have done. And I have some other charts that I'll show you here in a minute about the overall time frames. Chris McDonald actually is an Australian. That's one of the countries that we focus on in an international platform for our region. And we were successful in getting him to have an extensive interview with multiple media channels down there about why this race in North Lake Tahoe was so good for him and why he was interested in making sure he won it. So we were able to maximize that win through our international office in Australia and make sure that we got a lot out of that. Just to look at the average times, so you can see the two lower ones. I'll see if I can get this pointed out. So you have the pro men. Beeper's not working there. But so you have the pro men average 9 hours and 42 minutes with the pro women at 10 hours and 47 minutes. The average time was 14 hours and 6 minutes. This was the highest average time of any Ironman race ever. You can see the variety of age groups, both male and female, through there. The other thing that we looked at the end of this race was the DNFs. So you can see Tahoe on the end there at a 20% DNF. That's a did not finish. Relatively high for them, and that was a combination of a couple of things. Obviously, the cold weather coming off of the bikes and that basically 20-mile downhill run into Truckee kept things cold. But it certainly wasn't a high of what we saw in St. George either in 2011 or 2012. And we certainly think that DNF will go down next year because that was unseasonably cold weather, no doubt. But what's out of the bag is that the Lake Tahoe is the hardest Ironman race on the circuit. And not that I would have chosen that particular moniker when we first signed this event, but now that we have, and now that cat is out of the bag, we're very interested in promoting that. I talked to Andrew Mezek the day after the race, and he's the CEO of World Triathlon Corporation, and we're just debriefing a little bit. He wasn't able to be out here. And his opinion is we need hard races. He goes, we can't have all of our races to be like Tempe, Arizona, or Florida, no disrespect to those guys, but at sea level or below in a relatively flat course. He says his brand and his company in this industry needs hard races. So it'll take a little longer to sell out. I think we're anticipating that. It will take longer to sell out a second-year destination race anyway. So we're interested in watching those numbers, but we'll certainly be promoting that. So some of the learnings, local communication on open roads was big. We talked a lot about what was closed. I think what we found is we need to do more effort on what is open. How can people get around? We know there were impacts on the roads. We know there are impacts on businesses on the day of the race, and we've really got to look at this as a year-long program, and certainly through the training period of the summertime and that 10-day period of the race and then the race day. CHP traffic management issues. We know we had some problems out on 267 in Old Brockway that really backed traffic up to Kings Beach. And that's something that we're going to be working with CHP on and World Triathlon Corporation to fix that for next year. Volunteer captain communication. We had great captains, and again, I thank Placer County for your support in a volunteer position. I think you had a special needs bike, one of the busiest aid stations on the circuit. So I think that we just want to make sure we're communicating the right information to folks. Refining business opportunity and linkage. We want to make sure people are understanding what this event is bringing to town and when is the best time to maximize those opportunities by your geographic destination, because it's going to be different depending on where you are on race day. We're conducting business surveys to ensure that we're getting that information back, and received some information already. And we'll be looking to, again, meet with WTC post-Kona to do the full debrief. So 2014, again, we are looking at what are our opportunities moving forward. We'll have World Triathlon Corporation out here in January for the initial round of meetings. It is a 5-year contract, and we certainly hope to see it here longer than that. And I think the idea would be to obviously improve on it, improve the communication, improve the traffic flow, improve the business opportunity. But I think as a whole, we saw great success in this race. It was a first-year event. Anytime you have a big event like this, you're going to do a lot of learnings from it and bring those forward into the future years. So we got Ironman 2014 coming up, and I think that's our champion.
I'll do my best with the voice of Iron Man. Kirk Euler, you will be an Iron Man.
Yeah. Any comments from board members?
I actually do. I want to thank Andy particularly for all his work on the Ironman event. Any first-year event is always going to have some bumps and hitches in it, and I think really it went astonishingly well given everything that could potentially have occurred. I loved being a volunteer. It was absolutely delightful. One of the things that was just so incredibly rewarding was on the final lap of the bike tour, pretty much everybody who went by thanked us, gave us high fives. They were just delightful to work with. And I also really want to give a shout out to Jennifer Merchant and Peter Kratz, who were our team captains and got us organized and kept us in line. Yeah, all right. And, really made sure that we were where we needed to be. We had the information we needed to have. And again, obviously with the support of the Resort Association and the whole Ironman team, it went incredibly smoothly. Really looking forward to doing it next year and shouting at Kirk as he goes by and ringing our cowbells. But I really just wanted to take the opportunity to say thank you.
Well, thank you very much. And you guys have the process down on that aid station, so we expect to see somebody's name on that volunteer captain list. But thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think we're going to move to a video.
Yeah, if I might. We have a video. They say a picture is worth 1,000 words. I think this video is worth many times that. So if we could roll it, I think it'll be a nice compliment to what we just heard from Sandy and Andy.
God bless you. I'm marking English and Spanish. Body marking here. I'm in Tahoe, baby. Go Placer County. Come on, guys.
So, if I might, first I want to congratulate and acknowledge our video photographer extraordinaire, Eric Bergen, who was out there all day, who shot much more film than we had an opportunity to see this morning, but he put that piece together for us, and I want to thank him for that. As Supervisor Montgomery pointed out, we had a large team of county employees involved in this remarkable event and learned a lot of lessons and look forward to building on those next year. But I also would like to take just a moment to personally both acknowledge and congratulate and thank Sandy Evans Hall and Andy Chapman for a job just extraordinarily well done, and to give them a kind of a memento of our appreciation. We had Team Placer well represented at the event, and to make sure that we were recognized in that, we had special vests made up. So we have an honorary vest for Sandy and Andy, and we want to just thank them again for an incredible event and something that really puts Placer County and Tahoe on the map. Kirk has a comment.
Supervisor Bueller?
I had the opportunity to represent the board. Jennifer wasn't able to make the Monday morning at the awards, and it was quite something. Those of you who didn't have a chance to participate in the event this year as a volunteer, please consider it next year. At the awards ceremony the next day, they were showing different videos. And they had a video that was dedicated just to the volunteers. And that video got more applause than anything else the whole morning. They were just so appreciative of the efforts of everybody at the transitions, at the special needs, at the finish. So it was very rewarding to see those folks who had just completed this 140.6 mile event actually come out of their chairs to thank the volunteers. So it's a wonderful opportunity. If anybody didn't take advantage of it this year, I encourage you to do it next year.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to address the board on this item?
I just wanted to follow up with one last comment. I wasn't able to make the Monday morning awards ceremony, but I was able to make the volunteers thank you dinner, which was great. I mean, it was basically a bunch of volunteers in hot competition with each other to have the best teams. And, unfortunately, Placer County did not get the recognition it deserved at that award ceremony. But next year, God willing, we're going to be up there, picking the gift card out of the presenter's pocket for best team. And it was just delightful, and it was fantastic to see such a huge group of folks from the North Tahoe and Placer County area. Most of the folks who were there for the dinner were locals. They were the people who had been able to stay because that was, I think, on the Monday night. And a lot of folks had already gone home who were visitors. But very interesting factoid that came out of that dinner was the most common name for a Ironman female volunteer was Jennifer. So Jennifer and I were very pleased to be in a crowd of obviously above performing individuals in terms of volunteerism. So want to see the rest of you out there. I want to see some different volunteer names as the top name next year. So come join us. It was a blast, and it will be again.
Thank you, Supervisor. All right, very good. We'll move now to Health and Human Services, Adult System of Care Contracts, well, anyhow, it's another, go ahead.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I have an item for you this morning that will allow Placer County medical clinics to operate in our new Medi-Cal managed care environment beginning November 1st, just in a couple of weeks. I have a two-part item for you asking you for approval of the Placer County medical clinics to become a Medi-Cal managed care provider for the 2 health plans that are coming into Placer County, and therefore approving the participating provider agreements with Celtic Insurance known in California as California Health and Wellness Plan, and Anthem Blue Cross. And secondly, to authorize the Director of Health and Human Services to approve and sign subsequent amendments and appoint the Director of Health and Human Services to serve as a contract representative for these contracts. So just briefly, a little bit of background. In June of 2013, the governor's budget authorized the expansion of Medi-Cal managed care into the last remaining 28 counties in California that were remaining fee-for-service under the Medi-Cal system. Placer County was one of 18 counties who has been assigned 2 managed care companies, both Celtic Insurance, again, California Health and Wellness here, and Anthem Blue Cross, and they're establishing provider networks at this time. And they have a contract with the state of California to put this managed care system into place. Medi-Cal managed care is designed to emphasize primary care and preventative care, as well as to coordinate the delivery of the healthcare system in that for Medi-Cal beneficiaries. And the managed care companies are expected to provide additional assistance, such as 24-hour nurse line, health education, and case management for complex medical issues. Historically, Placer County Medical Clinics in Auburn and in Tahoe have been a major provider of primary care services for the Medi-Cal beneficiaries in our community. We serve approximately 2,700 Medi-Cal beneficiaries in the county now, and 3,500 who are in the early implementation of Medi-Cal, Medicaid expansion in our county is what we call it, who will be eligible for Medi-Cal on January of 2014. In addition, we serve approximately 1,200 who receive both Medi-Cal and Medicare, and we expect that those folks will be asked to join a plan in the coming year. So in order for us to continue to provide the services that we are providing currently to these residents and to receive payment for that care, both through the managed care company as well as back up through the state as we do currently, we would request approval of the 2 participating agreements. This will allow us to see the current Medi-Cal beneficiaries that we're seeing in our clinics, and they will be able to continue with their current healthcare providers. Like I said, the Medi-Cal rate will then be able to be maintained at its current level, which is 100% of our cost. So because we'll be maintaining that, that current revenue, I would say there's no fiscal impact as a result of this action, but I'd be happy to answer any questions and recommend approval of the contracts.
Any questions from board members? No, seeing none. Anyone in the audience wish to address us on this item? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board for approval.
Move approval.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the action requested. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move to item 6, Department of Public Works, Kings Beach Commercial Core Improvement Project, Core of the Core update. Peter Kratz.
Good morning, Chairman Holmes, members of the board. Glad to be here today. Peter Kratz with Public Works. Just as a reminder, this is an information item only. No action is being requested of your board today. And as a reminder, just want to point out that this project represents one of Placer County's biggest infrastructure investment projects meant to provide Kings Beach with improved multimodal transportation options to help better connect pedestrians and cyclists throughout the community, enhanced access to public transit and improved parking conditions to have less reliance on the personal automobile, newly furnished streetscape features to help businesses flourish, and improved stormwater runoff conditions to help protect Lake Tahoe. As we have reported earlier to the board and the community, the project has been divided into 2 phases to maximize use of available funding. The first phase, or Core of the Core, represents a significant portion of the overall project, including much of the planned improvements along State Route 28 and on much of the grid or county roads of the residentially developed part of the community. With our existing secured funding, we advertised construction plans and specifications for Core of the Core back in August and opened bids on September 24th. We are currently evaluating bids and plan to return to your board next month regarding a proposal to award the contract. In the meantime, we are in the midst of securing another $1.5 million in funding from the Community Development Block Grant State Program that will ensure we have adequate funding for Core of the Core. This new funding has some requirements to work through prior to awarding the construction contract. Assuming the contract award takes place next month, we are still on schedule to begin construction in the spring of 2014 with a completion year of 2016. The new additional funding will give us a total of $26.2 million to deliver Core of the Core, including the residential improvements advertised in the bid package. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions from board members?
No question, but just absolutely delighted that this is moving forward, and everything I hear is, let's get this going. So thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. We're excited about it too, for sure.
Any other comments from board members? Anyone in the audience wish to address us on this item? Good. Good work. Looking forward to seeing this through completion. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you,
Now,
Chairman.
We'll move to update on State Route 89 Fanny Bridge Community Revitalization.
Thank you, Chairman Holmes, members of the board. Again, Peter Kratz with Public Works. We're going to do a little bit of a group presentation here. I'd like to introduce our director, Ken Graham, to first initiate this presentation, and then I'll follow with some closing remarks as we get through this item. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, Ken.
Good morning, Chairman, board members. My name is Ken Graham with the Department of Public Works. And today's item is about providing an update for the Fanny Bridge project, but it's really also a time for us, we're celebrating today. Within the last week or two, we've been noticed of award of a $25 million award in what's called the Federal Lands Access Program, or FLAP, you're going to be hearing about. Predominantly for the Fanny Bridge project, but also to help construct the Dollar Creek Bike Trail, as well as the Meeks Bay Bike Trail, which technically is on the West Shore, but it's actually in El Dorado County. And today I really want to give credit where credit is due. I want to recognize the Tahoe Transportation District, particularly Carl Hasty and Alfred Knotts, who are here today, and we're going to give them a moment to update you on where we are at with the project. But through their hard work, they prepared the application, did the advocation, all the legwork that was necessary to make that grant come true. And so, and to put that a little bit in perspective, out of the $40 million over the next several years that program is going to bring to California, over $25 million of it is going into North Lake Tahoe. A tremendous victory for the area and for North Lake Tahoe. And I just want to take the opportunity to congratulate and thank Carl, his board, and the TTD for their outstanding work in getting this grant to North Lake Tahoe. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over, I think, first to Carl to talk a little bit about where they're at in the project, maybe a little bit more about this FLAP funding, and then he can turn it on over to Peter. Thanks. Good morning. I'm Carl Hasty, the District Manager for the Tahoe Transportation District, and it's a pleasure to be here this morning. I believe you have copies of this presentation already, but I have some color ones, so you may want to follow that along, because attached to those are the 6 alternatives that are being evaluated right now. And let's see, okay. So I'm going to be as brief as possible here. I know your morning is moving on here. I wanted to speak a little bit to purpose and need. Before I do that, I'd like to acknowledge a number of people in the audience, however, 3 of which are my board members, 2 more, and I would have had to have noticed this meeting. But my chairman, Steve Teixeira, Ron Trebus, who represents TMA, and Will Garner, who represents Placer County. If you don't know much about us, we're a bi-state special district and focused on transportation at Lake Tahoe. We have the authority to own and operate. We operate the transit system at South Shore. And we've been focusing on projects like this that are also part of the regional transportation plan that look to get those system improvements in place. We also have the authority, and we're looking at connecting Tahoe to communities outside of the lake, and that's through transit. This project is a keystone project, especially here at North Shore. One part of the purpose and need, this is not the first time this project's been looked at. It's in your community plan. Part of the issues that we're looking to address are the structural integrity of Fanny Bridge, the present and future traffic congestion in the Tahoe City area, and looking at other improvements then, especially with the goals of the lake to offer other choices like multimodal opportunities. Safety is a huge one. That's become a big factor here for the West Shore. Not to mention movement of goods, emergency access, the whole gateway experience, and the opportunity that presents, this project can present at Tahoe City. One of the things that we've seen with these kind of investments of what that can stimulate in terms of private investment in adjacent properties, enhance the recreational access and opportunities, since this is such an important gateway at North Shore. And then these are all the other kind of plans that this project is relevant to for Lake Tahoe. We've really simplified the process here to give you an overview of what we're all going through right now, which is definitely the environmental analysis and the studies. We're moving into project approval next year, and we'll go to that schedule here shortly. but this is a simplified version of how it works. As I mentioned, we started out with 4 alternatives coming forward in the scoping process. We've added 2, which are replacing the bridge in place as a part of the community process. We've had a lot of community process so far. Right now, we have over on the right-hand side there the Community Review Committee underway. We've had our first work session and orientation. We'll be doing a number of those with a representative group of the community looking at these alternatives and what are the ideas and so on that they see. One of the things that are coming out of that and they'll be seeing next is this economic study. So we've done an economic analysis for the project. We'll be bringing that forward with the Community Review Committee next for them to vet that and to look at that and start to give us some ideas of what these alternatives could mean. And then this project is, I'd like to speak to, well, we've packaged this, but with the Fanny Bridge project, this starts to tie together with everything else that's going on in Placer County here. Certainly with the Kings Beach improvements that are happening, this offers an opportunity at Tahoe City. Similarly, with the Dollar Creek Shared Use Trail that Placer County's been the lead for, with the Homewood, that TCPUD is underway, and then with the Meeks Bay to Sugar Pine Point, which is what the district has been underway. With all of that, those 2 bike trail segments on the West Shore will have that connectivity all the way down to Meeks Bay Resort. With the new FLAP grant, we could be going to construction on the Meeks Bay Trail next season because we're ready if we have the construction dollars. As was mentioned, we're looking at $25.5 million, which we're very pleased to see come into the basin and have this award. This is the Federal Lands Highways folks. We're going to be dealing with the division out of their regional office in Denver. These are the guys who deal with all the federal lands projects, Park Service, Forest Service, BLM, Fish and Wildlife Service. Part of the benefit to that is that they'll bring a national park aesthetic to the kind of projects works here, and I think that's some of the exciting things that we can be looking at in Tahoe City with what can that look be. I think that's something that's very important for Tahoe. So we're very pleased about this and an ability to bundle 3 projects like this and bring that kind of money. The match that will go along with this is another $7.5 million, some of which you'll be asked in the future to provide. The district is seeking the balance of that for that construction budget. The total ends up being about $33 million in total right now. Here's our schedule. We're looking to finalize this economic study. Again, the Community Review Committee will be reviewing this and we'll be wrapping up that work with them by the winter of 2014. We're looking at bringing the draft environmental document forward, which is where everyone's going to be getting to see that. It'll be coming before you sometime near the end of next year for decision. My board will also have a decision along with Caltrans and a number of other entities because we'll be seeking permit and what is the actual preferred alternative out of all of those. The proposed one is a realignment, but the alternatives are sitting there to look at everything. The project report is a Caltrans piece that goes along with that. Then with these monies in hand, we'll be able to start looking at going to bid and construction with everything in 2015 and certainly by the 2016 construction cycle. If you have some comments and questions, then these are some folks here to contact. I'd like to point out my staff, which is Alfred Knotts here is our project manager. In the back, we have Margaret Skillicorn, who's our community outreach person for Tahoe City. And then we have Mark Rayback and his team from Wood Rogers, who's our lead design group for the Tahoe City project. And with this, I think Peter wants to go over those alternatives and give you a view of that. You have those in your attachments as well.
The board and the public here a little bit about the alternatives being studied as part of the environmental review. A lot of effort has gone on into this project so far. I'm trying to recall, look back at my notes, that we came to your board about this time of year 2 years ago to give you an update, and a lot of progress has been made since then. So what I'd like to do is just go over those 6 alternatives that Carl mentioned briefly, kind of a 30,000 foot altitude of the projects being studied as part of the environmental review. Alternative 1, and I'll just start out, the first 4 alternatives I'll show you is really what's showing a new alignment of 89 to the west of the existing Fanny Bridge. So a group of 4 alternatives with variations on what happens to the old, what I call the old 89, which is this section here. So the first alternative is really to the west, like the next three alternatives, with two roundabouts attaching to 89 North here and 89 South here. And this section of Old 89 becomes a local road and is open to all forms of transportation, including vehicular traffic. Alternative 2 is same thing, new alignment west of the Fanny Bridge, same location, two roundabouts. The difference is Fanny Bridge is cut off from through vehicular traffic. It's only open to pedestrians and emergency vehicles only. And then there's the local road terminates here just south of Fanny Bridge. Alternative 3, again, new alignment on the west side of Fanny Bridge down here with two roundabouts. The difference though, here you can cross the bridge with vehicular traffic, the existing Fanny Bridge, but it terminates here south of the businesses, and access to the transit center comes up through here, our existing transit center. And then finally, alternative 4, which concludes the last alternative that looks at a new alignment west of Fanny Bridge, is instead of roundabouts at the connections, we have a traditional signalized intersection right here, and then a sweeping curve south, going south down to West Shore. You still have vehicular traffic allowed to be crossing the existing Fanny Bridge, terminating down here by the transit center. And then two alternatives that are looking at replacing Fanny Bridge in kind without a new alignment to the west is what's called Alternative 6, which is widening the bridge. You can see here, and widening the approaches to the Y in here with a traditional signalized intersection that would be upgraded compared to what's there today. And then Alternative 6A, again, in-kind replacement of the Fanny Bridge with widening of it for approaches coming from the south. And then instead of a signalized intersection, you'd have a two-lane roundabout. So I just wanted to point out the 6 alternatives that are currently being studied as part of the environmental review. Similar to other projects that I've been involved with in my tenure at Placer County, like Kings Beach, these alternatives will go through a compare and contrast analysis in the environmental document to see how they line up with the need and purpose of the project. And we just wanted to highlight where we are with these alternatives to date. There's a community effort moving forward led by the TTD and their consultants to engage with the community, continue that engagement as they work through the environmental document. A couple closing remarks that I'd like to make, just point out a few things. Next steps with the county. With the new federal funding comes a requirement to provide local match funding, as Carl pointed out, to the tune of approximately $7.5 million, which will be split likely between Placer County, El Dorado County, and state agencies like the California Tahoe Conservancy and possibly Caltrans. Placer's share could be on the order of $4 million, with the exact amount still to be determined. Once the environmental document is complete for the Fanny Bridge project and comments from the community, Placer County, and other agencies are incorporated, we would return to your board with the proposal to adopt the environmental document as a responsible agency, assuming we are satisfied with the final environmental document. This action would be needed to allow our local match dollars to be provided that will help leverage the $25 million plus in federal funding for the Fanny Bridge project. And finally, prior to completing the environmental document, we will return to your board with a project agreement currently being drafted that will articulate the roles and responsibilities of all participating agencies in the projects, including Placer County. I should point out that as part of that project agreement for Placer County, the Dollar Creek Shared Use Trail project could move forward fairly quickly, and we would need to provide some of those local match dollars up front as part of that project agreement package. So with that, we'll open it up to questions from the board or from the public, and I think those are all my remarks at this point in time. Thanks.
Thank you, Peter. Any comments from board members?
Looks like Kirk has one, and then I have some.
What's the reason that we have these alternatives that show the abandonment of that connection across Fanny Bridge in addition to the new alignment that's further west? I don't know what the thinking is behind that.
I'll try to, let's back up to, part of the thought with the variations with this new alignment, I'll try to answer it with the idea with some of these variations, Supervisor Euler, is the thought of opening up this area for more pedestrian traffic and multimodal transportation options without with less reliance on the personal automobile, like we try to do with a lot of our projects. So that's part of the variation there in terms of not having that road there, but serving more the pedestrian and the cyclist in that area. Does that help answer it?
Well, I mean, that's one of the areas where we already have the bike trail connectivity. There doesn't seem to be any problem with pedestrians and bikes in that area. And certainly redirecting a significant amount of the traffic that moves along West Shore over to the new 89 connection will just make it even that much easier. If I'm any of the businesses up in that area, especially along the river there or what have you, I'd really hate to see that connection go away. It just doesn't seem to make a lot of sense.
Maybe I can just add, a lot of what you see that's been put together has been put together after immense public involvement, starting with a couple of alternatives, expanding as people had questions, and it's trying to be open through our environmental process. We've added, or TTD has added, alternatives, variations to those alternatives based on the feedback we've received. Not here to say everyone probably has one that's better than another, but when we're going through such an immense project, trying to make sure we analyze all the potential options so people can feel like they've been heard and they've been analyzed. That's what we're trying to accomplish in the number of alternatives that we have at this time.
And if I may, to back onto that, part of it is to accomplish a successful environmental document where you have, that range of alternatives that have explored all the different alternatives from which you select, and getting through the issues that, related to coverage, for example, here at Tahoe, and so on and so on. So there's been a lot more alternatives that have been looked at than what is going forward in the document, which the 7th is a no project alternative. So there's been no shortage of variety of alternatives reviewed. Not all of them are going forward, but it's for that whole suite of reasons that we have what we have.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I would like to follow up on Supervisor Euler's comments. I have looked at all the alternatives and had a lot of different conversations about all the potential alternatives. And I have to say that a real bright line for me is I don't want to see the existing roadway be abandoned. I want that to continue to be a through roadway. I think alternative 6 and 6A probably, and I believe alternative 1 allow that to continue to be a through roadway. I have some real concerns about what that would do to the businesses there in that area. While it might open it up to more pedestrian traffic, if you don't have vehicle traffic driving by it and going, oh, look, it's the bridge tender, they're not even going to know it's there to visit. So it's a real bright line for me that Fanny Bridge needs to remain open long-term to vehicular traffic. I know Caltrans has a vision about upgrading that if the rest of the project doesn't go forward. I'd be very interested in understanding what Caltrans would propose to do and what the county's role would be in that. If we just did some improvements at Fanny Bridge and at the Y, frankly, I'm not yet sold that we need a bypass here. I think that there's a lot of room for improvement in the existing roadway, both at Fanny Bridge and at the Y, that should be explored and analyzed really comprehensively as an alternative to a bypass. So those are my comments.
Any other comments? Anyone in the audience wish to address the board on this item?
Good morning. My name is Jim Sadak, and I've been heavily involved in this project since 2011. I'm actually glad there's a sheriff here because I think the TTD is ready to shoot at me from behind. Anyway, originally TTD started with 5 alternate designs, including a no-build. The other 4 alternates included a 4-lane bypass bridge. In 2011, because of my persistent efforts, because I'm a member of the Tahoe City community, along with TTD's outreach and public scoping period, they found that the contingency of the Tahoe City business and residents wanted an alternative design without a bypass. So because of my persistence and other members of the community, the businesses, we came up with alternate 6 and 6A were drafted. Instead of working with Caltrans in the Bureau of Reclamation at the time or at this current time for some possible design exceptions, the scale for the roundabout designed in alternate 6A was drawn at approximately 175 feet in diameter, which when you look at that slide is actually the same diameter or the same width as the Save Mart building. They're also showing 4 lanes of traffic over Fanny Bridge, and from what I understand in our meetings, the design team indicated that designs were based on Caltrans standards. That being said, at one point, TTD and their design team rejected alternate 6 and 6A due to inconsistencies with the proposed and need of the project. Constructability being the main item that was thrown out. The 2 alternatives were thrown out at one point. Caltrans knows that we're in a confined area and we need some exceptions possibly to get this thing to work. It sounds like, in talking with Peter a little bit, it sounds like some exceptions were provided for the work at the Tahoe Vista project and the Kings Beach Core project. I mean, I've really been involved in this project. I've emailed Jim Brake, Caltrans engineer, that indicated to me that it would be possible to possibly replace the existing signal with a roundabout. However, it would not possibly reduce congestion in the area by itself. The number one problem that we're having on the West Shore, which the traffic actually significantly increased ever since Caltrans put in the double green arrow, holding the traffic coming out of Save Mart. The number one problem that's being picked up right now, the traffic through Tahoe City, is the 6 uncontrolled pedestrian crosswalks through downtown. You get one person leaving the sidewalk. By the time they get 3/4 of the way across, the next guy wants to go, and it backs up all the traffic. When you actually get to the intersection at the Y, Caltrans has also told me that that signaled intersection flows at an acceptable level of service. So I appreciate it because this is huge to the community, what I have to share with you guys. I have some drawings I'd like to hand out. What I've done is I've gone to other Caltrans projects in the area, 89 North, and I've actually got drawings from Caltrans. I laid out a roundabout based on Caltrans standards for other locations and found out that a roundabout will work. It'll save all the businesses. It will become a great, awesome gateway to the community with no work involved as far as the high-pressure sewer line, the Caltrans yard, the bypass, and so forth. So I'd like to present this to the members of the board just for their consideration. It also shows getting the pedestrians off of Fanny Bridge. That is a number one problem as well, the safety of those pedestrians. What I'm also proposing is lowering a platform just off the rail of the bridge to get the pedestrians closer to the fish, and it allows the people driving by not to be looking over going, hey, what are all these people, what is the attraction here, which slows down the traffic as well. I think it's a great plan, and what I'd like to ask the supervisors is that once we can get it on the agenda for the Placer County Board of Supervisors meeting, is a report from Caltrans actually saying what they are willing to some exceptions they're willing to make to get this project to work and keep Tahoe City functioning better than it is, but to help the businesses and our whole community and such instead of the bypass. You're welcome. Thank you.
Any additional comments?
Good morning. My name is Cynthia Spraja, and I am the manager of the Tahoe City Store and Shell Station, gas station located at 300 River Road in Tahoe City. I'm reading this on behalf of our owner, Carl Cox. Carl originally purchased the business in December of 1988. For more than 25 years, the business revenue at our site has experienced a steady and slow decline. Sorry, I'm very nervous. This downward trend accelerated in recent years and continued despite the closure of 2 competing facilities in Tahoe City. The economics of doing business in general have been extremely challenging. We must meet the rising costs during an economic downturn and continue to battle for the crumbs left in a smaller economic retail pie. I believe the construction of an alternate Highway 89 will devastate what is left of my business and part of the town of Tahoe City. I love the old town. I've been here for 40 years, and I really love the way it is. As a commuter, I recognize the need to upgrade the structural integrity of the bridge. As a prudent business manager, I fail to recognize the need to spend in excess of $25.5 million to build a new bridge which impacts our environment, taxpayer rights, and business livelihood. My staff became involved with the process almost 2 years ago when 7 options were presented. Most options completely closed Fanny Bridge to motorists on the West Shore. From the start, it felt as if we were being told the project is happening, just deal with it. After numerous public and private discussions, it appears to be clear that little effort has been made to find solutions that do make an upgrade to Fanny Bridge possible. I'm asking for your assistance in finding a viable alternative and making Fanny Bridge continue to represent Highway 89 and Tahoe City and save the economic viability of our community. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to address the board? Here we go. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is David Orozco. I'm here on behalf of Tahoe City Chevron. I'm manager there, 310 River Road. I'm here to speak out on how we actually oppose this project in the bypass version, which is alternative 1 through 4. We definitely do not want a bypass in our town. I have been working there 12 years. I have also been seeing the economic down spiral that we have been going through and we have been trying to push through. And I believe alternative 1 through 4 is only going to further this down spiral to where we are no longer going to be either existent. Like she mentioned, the pie has definitely been less and less as the years have come up. I apologize, I'm very nervous and I'm not really used to speaking in public. But I go to what the gentleman over here said is they were, do you really feel like you have been listening to what the people, have you been hearing what the people have saying? So he says that they feel that they have been hearing what people have been saying, and everything I hear is I don't want this town to be just another Lake Forest Road down the road. Now, I know that I am a part of something bigger. This community is something great, and I don't believe that any bypass is going to help our community grow in any sort of way, shape, or form. I think alternative 6 and 6A, or even the alternative that Mr. Jim Sidek has proposed, are definitely the better alternatives. Let's do what we're doing to Kings Beach. Let's help our economy grow. Let's help this transit center grow. This vision that Sandy Hall and Mr. Will have, I think we should really, really envision this transit vision and see where this would lead us. I agree with Jim that the 6 pedestrian crossings throughout town are really part of the actual traffic backflow that is not helping our town. Now, we need to consider what are the options, what can we do to minimize that? Do we need to get signs out there? Do we need to, I think that more studies need to be done before something is of this magnitude is approved or goes any further. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to address? Please come forward.
Hi, good morning. My name is Richard Corsier. I've been a resident and own 2 businesses in Tahoe City for 37 years. I do own the property that joins up to the bridge. We have Truckee River Rafting, and for the last 13 years, my full season business is the River Grill restaurant right there. And I'm joined with everyone else in town that we are a resort town, and we rely on tourism, people coming into the town, and it's going to bring traffic with it. And you're trying to do this to avoid the traffic and to move the traffic away from town. So if you take one of the main arteries that is supporting Tahoe City and you take it and move it away and then close the old one, you are going to devastate this town. I heard something interesting that what you just said. There's a range. There is a range. All these alternatives. There will always be a debate on whether we need a bypass or not. But there is certainly something that's no one's debating at all. The community does not want that old highway closed. But yet half of the alternatives close it. Why is half of the alternatives closing the road when no one in the community wants it closed? I'm also a West Shore resident. Can you put up one of the other alternative maps? Right now, raising your kids, going to Tahoe City, it's amazing how many times we have to go into Tahoe City. You go to the post office, the bank, the gas stations. Everything is in Tahoe City. If you live on the West Shore, it's a straight shot in. You don't even have to stop at the red light, stoplight because of the right-hand turn. You're there in a couple minutes. Now, what they're proposing on more than half of these, a roundabout. I'm going to come into the roundabout. You're going to send me away from Tahoe City across a 4-lane bridge into another roundabout, turn me back into Tahoe City where now I do have to stop at that red light to go to the post office, and then do it again in reverse if that road is closed. Most businesses up here make most of their revenues in 2 months, July and August. We spend the next 10 months just trying to survive. Everything is 2 for 1, on sale, happy hour. Those 2 months are critical, July and August. So if anything that's going to take this business away from us could devastate us. They've already talked about the crosswalks going through town. Squaw Valley, besides the 2 months, and you know what, that 2 months, when we were going to school, the summer was always Memorial Day to Labor Day. And now that summer's getting shorter. The summer really doesn't pick up until the end of June, around June 20th. And business starts dropping off like a rock right around August 20th now, way before Labor Day. And then you have Labor Day weekend, it's a quick push. The season is even getting shorter. It's going against us. Squaw Valley actually has done a great job. They're busy. In the winter, we're busy 2 major holidays, Christmas, New Year's, President's Day. Squaw Valley does a great job. They understand what the problem is to keep the traffic moving, is you have to keep it moving through Tahoe City. That's why they come in with all their orange cones and set up the lanes, the 2 lanes, and it has helped tremendously getting the traffic going through Tahoe City. What has also helped was the stoplight at the bridge tender. For years, that was backing up all the West Shore traffic trying to leave town because when somebody enters, the pedestrians enter the crosswalk, you have to stop. So now, for 2 years, 3 years before the stoplight, the Highway Patrol was there with officers, and he was controlling the crosswalk. It worked so well that they did decide to put in the light, and it's worked tremendously. None of these reports I've seen are addressing any of the traffic situation, which is how do you get the cars through Tahoe City with all those pedestrians crossing 7 crosswalks in half a mile? So, thank you for your time.
Very much. Thank you. Anyone else? Alrighty. Any Supervisor Montgomery?
Yeah, I want to thank the 3 folks who just spoke. I do have to say that they're repeating a lot of the concerns that I've heard raised by other, people who live and work in the community. So I think a couple of the things that I would just like to clarify in terms of their conversations and the points that they raised is Fanny Bridge now has a signalized pedestrian crossing, and that I think the issue that's being raised about Highway 28 through Tahoe City is that there are a number of pedestrian crossings, none of which are signalized. And once the Fanny Bridge pedestrian crossing was signalized, it really did make traffic flow flow a lot better on Highway 89. And the suggestion, I think, is that we with Caltrans may want to look at doing something similar on Highway 28 to help improve the flow of traffic on Highway 28, which helps improve the flow of traffic at the Y, which helps improve the flow of traffic coming up the West Shore. So just a little bit of clarification for folks who may not be quite as intimately familiar with the geography and the crosswalks as some of the folks in the audience. One of the questions that I wanted to understand is the flat money, that $25.5 million. Is that money that is only available if the bypass goes forward?
I can answer that. First, I'd like to say that three of the speakers, Shell, Mr. Sajak, and Rich, are all on the Community Review Committee, so they're heavily involved with us in that. So we're looking forward to working through with that. It's also why we're doing the economic analysis. This is not an unusual set of questions and issues and concerns. Needs real good information to be involved in that. Lastly, with the, I think particularly with Grove Street, that's something that we're also talking about with Caltrans as kind of packaging again, this kind of overall solution. So I want to make sure that you all are aware of that. Relevant to the flap money, the proposed action is what we predicated the application on. The money, we know we all have to go through this environmental review, and there's no guarantee that that proposed action is going to be the preferred alternative. So in my view, I do not believe necessarily that that means that money goes away if that alternative is not chosen. We're actually after a solution that's going to be the best for the community to accomplish the goals that have been articulated for this project as a whole, of which these alternatives are intended to support.
So, Carl, I want to make sure I understand what you just said. So if we go through the environmental process and we end up with choosing an alternative that does not include a bypass, the 25.5 is going to be there for us?
I think that is possible. The answer to that is yes, I believe that is possible. Could it cause some doubt? Maybe. That remains to be seen. Everyone who approved that money is well aware that you have an environmental review process and you have a selection of a preferred alternative. So they're well aware that anything can change and are aware of what those range of alternatives are in this environmental process. Having said that, my expectation would be that we would not automatically lose the funds if that alternative or some combination comes out of this that is the best solution. I think we have the interest of the funders for this project, and that's what we would seek, to retain those monies.
Okay, something that I would really strongly encourage you to do, and this is something that we do at the county a lot, is just have some pretty frank conversations with our funding partners about, well, if this happens, what is your intent in terms of the money? And so I think a really important question to ask our federal partners on these flap dollars is, hey, if we do decide to go ahead without a bypass and just do something at the Y and at Fanny Bridge, yes or no, is it your intent that that money will be there? I think hoping that it will still be there and hoping that they have some sort of vision that we have to go through.
We have been having a lot of very frank conversations with these folks, and we will continue to do so. And that's something that we'll be asking.
Yeah,
because there is. It's
going to be critical to us, I think, as a board.
I understand.
Okay. And I don't want to beat that horse. If the bypass does go forward, the roundabout coming in from the Truckee area, the bridge that goes over the river, how long and tall would that bridge be that crossed the river, and how many lanes?
I'm going to defer to Mr. Rayback for that, Wood Rogers. I don't carry those facts around in my head.
I'm not sure I have all the facts either. The bridge in Alternative 1 is a 4-lane bridge, as shown here. It may actually, based on some latest traffic stuff with Caltrans, we may actually be able to squeeze the bridge a little bit to maybe a 3-lane bridge. And it is exactly the same height as the newly constructed pedestrian bridge just upstream.
And I'm sorry, how tall is that for those of us who haven't stood by it?
It's about 7 feet over the high water mark, or over the normal water mark.
And that would be the deck?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, sure. My name is Mark Rayback. I'm with Wood Rogers. Thanks.
And if I may add one more thing, Supervisor, relevant to this issue, I mean, we're as interested in anybody in minimizing the scale of this because, one, it certainly helps with the cost, if nothing else. So I think the ultimate answer, what we're going to be looking at with Caltrans as well as with the county, because this kind of option, I think we all fail to kind of point out, would make the existing alignment a local road and give the county options and community options on what they would want to do with that, like for events and the like. It would make the new alignment the new highway. And so that's part of what would happen in any kind of option like this. The decision then on what's the level of service that we are designing for, because right now it definitely fails. And I think
on a couple days a year, not on an ongoing basis.
When it fails, it fails. And so the level of service decisions, both I think any option like this for both the county when it comes to the local road and for Caltrans is the minimum that I think we would be seeking to go to. And what is that minimum? And that's another definitive answer of having that very direct conversation we are going to have.
And Carl, don't get me wrong. My primary goal, as I stated at the very beginning of this discussion, is that I want to make sure that this road stays open to all vehicular uses and traffic. I'm still not convinced we need a bypass. I need more information and really need to be sold on it if that really is where we go.
And that's what the entire process is all about. And as that all comes forward to you as a package with all of those studies and everything else and review is what that whole decision-making process is going to be predicated on.
And please feel free to use me as, a conduit to the local community. I would love it if you would come and, maybe come to one of our coffees and come to the NITRAC meeting again. And everyone loves coffee.
Okay.
And especially when I provide it free.
Okay.
So, but we would love to have you come and just sort of get this out to a larger, broader audience. So thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. Can I just add on that
Please.
Compared to our Kings Beach project in the past, I'll just say that this effort to date in engaging with the community, especially with this recent community committee, is very robust and very engaging. And Jim and others that have made comments today, they're either on that committee or invited to come to all those future committee meetings as the technical studies get completed, as new information comes forward. And I just encourage the community to use that as the consistent conduit to provide feedback back to the project designers and the other way as well. Thanks.
Well, thank you for the update. And that'll conclude our open session. And we will now adjourn to closed session.
The board will adjourn to closed session to take up the 3 items of existing litigation listed on the agenda. Report on the litigation and gave direction to counsel in Sierra Club and Friends of the West Shore versus Tahoe Regional Planning Agency. The board heard a status of litigation and gave direction to counsel. And in Kathy Dallas, the board discussed the workers' compensation claim with counsel and gave direction. That concludes the closed session report.
And that concludes our meeting for today.